Have you ever had a really knit, tight group of people that really like each other and then they go out and do stuff like camping or climbing inside a hole or, doing a bunch of things that ultimately gets them killed? Then you're going to enjoy this series. Hello beautiful bookworms, my name is Katarina and welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing a series review for the Linkville series by Mike Salt. So, sadly, I don't have any of the physical copies. I lie. I do have one of the physical copies, but it's an ancient edition, so I'm not going to show it. But I'm going to leave the photos of the new covers up because I've read all of these on my Kindle, so still need to have my physical copies. But I do recommend this series a lot, and I'm filming this video because as I'm currently filming, in the 5th of October, Hollow, which is the last book for now in the Linkville series, just came out, and so you guys can go and just grab it and read it, and I do recommend that you read all of the entirety of the series since Hollow is kind of a wrap of what is going on. So yeah, just if you like horror, if you like sort of like slasher settings but monster features and a group of tight friends or couples that just get themselves into shit that they can solve, people, these are for you. So I want to preface this by saying that I'm going to leave the Instagram for Mike Salt down below so that you guys can go check him out and check his books out and see what he's doing with his life and writing and such. So I hope that I do remember this, future Katarina, please. But yeah, let's get into the review. So the Linkville series has currently, if I'm not mistaken, 4 books in the series. These books are all pretty short, like short novel, novella type of books, so they're fairly easy to read. And also, one of the things that I want to start by saying is that Mike Salt has a really great writing style that allows you to just get immersed on the thing, and it's not overly complex or uses difficult vocabulary, and just it's like you're reading a group of friends and they're exploring stuff and shit goes down. You know what I mean? This is sort of his writing style. So I do, even though I want to say that there are a lot of trigger warnings for each of these 4 books, I do feel like if you're a avid horror reader or if you like horror in any capacity, but not too much, like there are gruesome parts, but I don't believe is the gruesomest thing that I've ever read. If you like that, then you can for sure get into this series. Also, Mike Salt is an indie author, and it's very important that we kind of show our indies that we love them. He's one of the newest voices in horror at the moment selling, and so I think it's very important that you get onto this, supporting him, seeing grow from one book to the other, and just, be a part of the series with him. So, as I was saying, the series is comprised by 4 books. These books are book 1, Damned to Hell, which I've done a review of it already and will leave linked up above, but I'm going to talk about it again. Book 2, The Valley, which I've just read in September. Book 3, House on Harlan, which I also read in September. And book 4, Hollow, that just came out again on the 5th of October, and you can now purchase it. And it's the 4th book that I've actually had an arc sent to by Mike Salt to read and to be able to talk to you guys about before this date or after this date, so that you guys can know everything about the series if you want to purchase it. So let's start from the beginning, shall we? Damned to Hell. Damned to Hell is the first book. As I've said, I have a review on it, and so I'm going to leave a link up above. But I just want to talk about it a little bit for those of you that haven't seen the review or don't want to, but want to know the start of the story. So Damned to Hell is a pretty standard story in a way. It's about Rob. He is an alcoholic, and he has been so because of the death of his son. I do believe he had 18 years old at the time that he died or something like that, and he died in a drunk drive accident. He was not the one that was drunk, but the drunk person killed him, and now Rob doesn't know what to do with his life. He's in Alcoholics Anonymous, but is not working, and he's just fucked up his life so bad that his wife left him, and he's completely alone. But one day, one of his friends comes to him and asks him point blank, what would you do so that you could bring your son back to life again? And basically this is the story of Rob and all of that happens in Them to Hell, which is pretty self-contained. It's in just one location. It has to do with Rob by itself, and with his son and with his family and the people that he cares about. So it's very self-contained. It has a lot of trigger warnings for alcohol abuse, obviously death of a loved one, grief, just a bunch of stuff like addiction, obviously gruesome deaths of people described, but I don't think they are too much, but take it with a grain of salt. I watch a lot of horror movies. So I think it's a safe one to begin with, to see if you like my Soul's writing style. And at this point in time, nothing kind of indicates that you're going to have a series, even though at the end of the book, there's a very strange epilogue that you don't know where it comes from. But that's the first book. That's what it is about. It's about the contemplation of grief. It's about what would you do if someone you loved died and you could bring them back. Then the second book, The Valley. This second book is a little bit different. And this book is about a group of friends, all couples, that go to a camping trip. They rent a cabin and they're going to just hike and see waterfalls and stuff. And one day they find in the cabin this map to the supposed valley where there's supposed to be beautiful waterfalls, but it's not in newer maps. So nobody knows about this kind of valley and this waterfall. And they decide, well then, we came to see the waterfalls, we came to hike, we came to get away from society, so we're just going to that valley. Sucks for them that that valley is haunted. Like really haunted. Like a lot haunted. And so strange things obviously start to appear in the way, in the beginning, and then they just get wrapped up in a lot of death and a lot of terrible things. And you kind of get to know a little bit of the story of the valley. So obviously there's also some trigger warnings here for mutilation, loss of a loved one, suicide, homicide, a lot of different things. But in here, I think that for the slasher loving people, The Valley is perfect. It's really great. You have this bunch of friends, so a lot of, I don't want to say this because I really love those characters, but a lot of flesh for the canon, if you know what I mean. And it's really fun and intriguing to see all of their relationships and then to see them like fighting everything that is coming to them and to kind of wonder, are they going to survive? Are they not? You never know. And the third book in the series, okay, House on Harlan, is again a more constricted sort of story. So it's about this family of four, so 2 kids, one is a baby, one is an infant. Well, one is a baby, one is a child, let's just say an infant, what? And then we have the father and the mother. And the father, they've just moved into this house on Linkville, which is here that you start to see all the parallels that go through the stories. They move to this house and the father discovers there's this little black door, sort of black, sort of red, and it has something inscripted on it, and he starts to get kind of attracted to this door. He starts to lose a lot of his own time, so he kind of gets back to it, and there's been 4 hours of time that he cannot account for what he was doing. There are things that are happening, like people seem to be entering his house, but they are fairly like his children or his wife. Creepy things are happening with the neighbors, and it's again sort of like a creature feature horror, but in this family and in this house where of course you have loss of a loved one as well, you have mutilations, you have creatures, and you have a lot of familiar horror because it's kind of like something is trying to get in their house. So it's kind of like a home invasion, let's just say. And then finally you have Hollow, the one that has just came out in the 5th of October. And Hollow is again another group of people that go explore this passageway that goes through these tunnels that goes through a cave. And if you've ever seen the movie Descent and loved it, this book is the one that is going to be the best of them all for you. If you've never seen Descent, but want to, go with this book. If you've never seen Descent but don't want to, that's completely fine. You can still read this book, even though I would say that there are a lot of gruesome things happening in this book. So I think that the trigger warnings are going to slowly start building. Obviously, it's not extreme horror at all. But there are, again, trigger warnings for mutilations, for stuff related with teeth, for suicidal ideation or attempts, for creature features, and other unpleasantries, as I normally say. And at the end of each of these books, there's an epilogue that actually appears long after the acknowledgements and the author's note and everything like that. It's like the last page on the book. And those little epilogues are the thing that are going to bring all of these books together. And by the end of Hollow, the epilogue of it is a little bit bigger than the others and just constructs a narrative of what is going on at the present time. So I'm assuming that the 5th book on the Linkville series, if it ever happens, which I do hope so, Mike, if you're listening to me, dude, write that book. That book might be like... already kind of present that's been hinted at in the other books. In Hollow, there is also a lot of name dropping from the other books, so obviously I would state that you should read them in order. However, if you just want to have a fun, spooky moment, you can read them in the order that you desire, because each of them are like conceived as stories that can be read by themselves. However, there's a lot of name dropping in some of the stories of other characters of the stories, and it's way fun, and way more fun, as I was saying, to read them in order, which I think is what you should do. I did that, and I really enjoyed it when I got to this, and I was like, ha, ha, ah, ah, you know? This is a sensation that you want. So yeah, I totally recommend this series if you're not getting it. In terms of horror, I would say it's not a very, it's essential horror, it's not very psychological or anything. I would compare Mike Salt's books to good fun slashers. I think that there is not, even though there are some descriptions that are kind of gross. Also, I forgot, in Hollow, trigger warnings for bug things. You are advised. But even though that happens, I don't think that they're particularly gross. I don't think that they're particularly, even though there are some details in the ways that the wounds are and the ways that the character dies, I don't think they're very exploitative. And I really like that in a way. So I kind of feel like I'm having fun, like watching a Friday the 13th, which is very gory, but at the same time, very able to be watched by a long run of people. Or kind of a Nightmare on Elm Street kind of thing, but more so the chases and stuff. I would not compare it with Scream though, because there's a lot of emotion dragged into these stories, particularly because the main characters are always friends or part of a family, and so you have a lot of emotion going on throughout these stories, which is also great, because if it was just a fun slasher, you would be like, yay, die, yay, die, yay, die, and that's not what we want. We want to have characters that we need to remember and we want to root for, which would not be the case if we all want them just to die and we're rooting for their enemies, which does not happen. I don't think I've ever wanted or find myself in need to root for any of the villains presented in all of these stories. I also think that a very good point of Mike Saul's writing, besides just creating these inventive and creating spaces and links through all of these, no pun intended, I think it's also really good the way that he creates characters as people before we see them in the scenes of horror. He creates people that you could know as your neighbor, that you could be yourself, relationships between people that you've almost always seen in a group of friends, relationships between people that you've heard about. So these characters can very easily become people that you've known. And one thing that I really enjoy is that he names some of his characters from his friends or family, and it's really fun to see, you know, all of the little ways that he's paying respects to the people that he likes. Also, he names some after some of his fans, which is pretty cool, and it's a dream of mine that one day one of the characters is called Katarina and she dies horribly. Because I would like myself to write my death. I would very much. So yeah, guys, that's going to be my review for the Linkville series. As I've stated, if you guys really like to read a horror book, especially now that we are in a horror season or a spooky season, but you haven't started really in horror, I think this is a great series for you guys to start. You can start easy with the first book and then delve up into the fourth one, which has just came out. I know I've said this, but I really want you guys to know that it just came out. Or you can read them whatever way you want to, even though I really don't advise it because I think it's fun to know the name callings and the appearances and everything that is going on. So yeah, I do encourage you guys. I've really enjoyed this series. It has been very fun and very spooky for me. It has its moments, and I would really like to have someone to talk about with the series and from the series. So if you guys want to, just pick it up, help an indie author out. Mike Salt deserves it. He is incredible. As I've stated, I will leave his Instagram down below so that you guys can see everything that he does, all of the writing things. He's also one of those people that just comes to the internet and kind of motivates his peers. So all of other writers know or have seen one of the kind of writing memes that he does, like saying, don't lose motivation, just write. And it's just so fun, and he's a really caring person, and I feel like he has a very natural talent for writing these stories, and I would very much like you guys to get to know his stories and to read his stories too. So if you like this video, leave a like or subscribe, and tell me down below if you're planning on reading the Linkville series, if you liked this video, if you didn't, and what type of horror you like the most, and what of these books that I've just talked about would be the one that if you'd consider picking up, you would. So yeah, guys, that's all for today, and happy readings to you all. Bye!